on the entry of aliens, any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. So, Don, the statement there from the White House that I just read, it was a lengthy statement there. I apologize to our viewers, but it seems to be a very strong signal from this White House that they intend to go right after that temporary restraining order as soon as possible. And the legal argument they appear to be making here, and it's one that we heard throughout this evening on this network, is that this White House believes the President of the United States has the authority, has broad authority when it comes to controlling the nation's borders as part of his powers, controlling the executive branch of this government and running the Department of Homeland Security. So that I think is going to be the argument that they make in the coming days.
All right, Jim, I want you to stand by, and you as well, Renee, and I want to bring in the governor, who's in Seattle now, Governor Jay Inslee. Governor, thank you so much for joining us again. And we have our correspondents, our experts out in the field, and they're going to be listening to us. Did you hear the statement from the White House, Governor?
I did, and it does not in any way obviate the fact that this president is totally bound by this order. We expect him to abide by this order. We will not accept any deviation from this order whatsoever. The Constitution is supreme in this country, and frankly, I'm proud that Washington State has led the country in standing up for the basic values and will not allow anyone, including the President in Washington, D.C., to contravene those values. And we had tonight a federal judge who was appointed by Republican President George W. Bush decide a very forceful decision, frankly, that this is a country that we are not going to allow a test of religion to determine who comes in our country. We are not going to allow decisions that actually jeopardize our national security. Look, the fact is in this case that the people from these 7 countries, there have been 700,000 refugees admitted since the disaster of September 11th, and not one incident has occasioned where people from these 7 countries caused a fatal terrorist act. So I know they want to talk about aliens. Let me tell you what they call aliens. They're Microsoft engineers. They're Boeing salesmen. They're cancer researchers. They're students at the University of Washington who are helping build my state economically. And this order hurts my whole state's economy besides being unconstitutional. So I'm quite glad that this federal court has stood up and provided what this nation needs, which are checks and balances, and we expect this president to follow them. Now, they've got a right to appeal. We'll let them do so, but I think we know that the values of this country are going to be defended in the courts.
Mm-hmm. And Governor, if you can you stand by, because I want to bring my attorneys in. Can we get Alan Dershowitz and Michael Higginbotham in? Okay, so Alan and Michael, Governor, stay there, because the governor says that the president is bound by this order and by this judge. Alan,
first of all, I think it's very important, the White House statement. The White House statement could have said that the president is going to follow the order of the Massachusetts judge, and he could have caused a major confrontation with the Washington judge. It's very important that the White House said, no, the president is going to appeal the order to the Ninth Circuit. That's the way it should be. So we're going to get an appeal to the Ninth Circuit by the president, by the Justice Department. We're going to get an appeal to the First Circuit by the plaintiffs who feel that they got the wrong result when the judge in Massachusetts denied them a temporary restraining order. We're going to get potentially conflicting decisions by different circuits. Ultimately, you'll get to the Supreme Court, which is now divided 4-4. And if you want to hear something very interesting, the justice who has now been nominated to serve on the Supreme Court, Gorsuch, says in his yearbook, attributing the quote to Kissinger, the illegal we do right away, the unconstitutional takes a little bit more time. So if we're talking about a system of checks and balances, I think we have a little bit to worry about when the new ninth justice comes on the court, who has, at least as a young person, said he has no problem with illegal or unconstitutional.
Okay, all right, so stand by. We've still got time for that. That hasn't happened yet. So, Michael, I just want to bring you in before I bring the governor back. What is the governor is saying that the president is bound by this order and this judge. Do you see it that way?
Well, yes, I do. And I think it's important, if you look at the statement, I think it's very important that the president follows the rule of law. I mean, we have a separation of powers principle. It's very important. And each branch must respect the other branches. And so the president executes the law, but the courts interpret the law. And here you have two judges, one from Washington, one from Massachusetts. They have conflicting interpretations, and that must be decided by the court. So you're going to appeal to the Court of Appeals, Ninth Circuit, First Circuit. They'll make a decision, and this will eventually go to the Supreme Court. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what makes our country so special.
Yeah. And Governor Inslee, you're an attorney as well, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So then how long, given the circumstances of the information that we have now, the statement from the White House, what the judge ordered earlier, how long will it take for this to play out and to unravel?
Yeah, I can't predict that. It could be months. It could be years. We don't know the answer to that.
But it won't happen overnight.
We're
not looking at a matter of a couple of days, do you think?
Well, it's possible. I suppose the Court of Appeals could act with that alacrity, but I doubt that'll be the situation. What we do know, though, is until further order of the judicial system, this order stands. It's important that people understand that. This is a historic moment in our country. I do believe, at least in my lifetime, except when President Nixon was around, this is the moment where we are most in need of judges in the separate branch of the judicial system to save our liberties. And I have to tell you, we need a strong judiciary in this country because our liberties are at risk from those who want to put us into the chaotic situation of choosing one religion over another. And so this is a moment we need a strong judicial system. I believe we've got one, and we certainly had one tonight, and I'm proud that we had the beacon of liberty shining out of Seattle tonight nationwide.
Governor, I have to ask you, our Jim Acosta read this statement, and I just have a copy of it here. I just want to read you the first part and ask you a question about it. It says, at the earliest possible time, the Department of Justice intends to file an emergency stay of this outrageous order and defend the executive order of the president, and then he said, which we believe is lawful and appropriate. So to file an emergency stay, how long would that take? Can they do that at this hour?
I suppose that's possible. But rather than speculate, let's just know one thing right now. President Donald Trump doesn't have the right to call anybody outrageous given the chaos he caused by this unplanned decision, which has created such tumult and trauma and injury across the nation. We don't appreciate that characterization. This judge is a Republican-appointed judge. He ruled on the Constitution and the facts. He looked at the fact that none of these people from these 7 countries were involved in one terrorist act. I'm concerned about this from a national security standpoint. I have people from our base here in Washington fighting in Iraq. But the last thing we want is a recruiting poster for ISIS, and that's frankly what this executive order is. So for a lot of reasons, I hope that we're going to continue to have a strong judicial system to rein in this president who's done damage to this country already.
So our Renee Marsh, who is listening as well, said that they're getting back to business, and they've ordered that all visas from the 7 countries singled out in this executive order that they were revoked. And so what does that mean? So now they said it's back to business as usual. What do you make of that, Governor?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, listen, the customs, it sounds like what the agency is doing is following the order, which is erases this as if it had never happened. And now, again, we're going to be able to have, Expedia salespeople go sell their products around the world and not worry about.
So these people can travel back into your state, right? Is that what this
yes,
is now? Okay.
From what I've heard, I'm relying on your excellent reporting for that. I don't have independent confirmation about it. But if, in fact, that's what the agency is saying, these folks ought to have the same rights they did as if this executive order had never happened. Yeah. And that's important for a lot of people. Look, these are my neighbors. These are executives. These are physicians. These are cancer researchers. And because this president didn't give 2 seconds thought as to what they were really doing, because he didn't bother to pick up the phone and talk to his cabinet members, he issued a rogue order which caused all this chaos for business people and researchers and students in my state. So I'm really happy that we restored an ounce of sanity in this country, and I hope it will continue.
Governor Jay Inslee, thank you for your time, but don't go far away from the phone. We may need you because you never know what can happen. We thought we were going to ease into our weekend, but not the case. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I want to get back to Jim Acosta and Renee Marsh. So, Renee, you heard the governor says he's relying on your expertise, your expert reporting. So tell us again about these visas being reinstated. He's assuming that means that people can now, whose visas were revoked, they can now come back into the state.
So, and again, I want to clarify, CBP was passing on information to the airlines. Of course, it would be in the hands of the State Department to actually do the physical duty of reinstating those visas. But yes, one would have to think that by saying we're going to reinstate those visas, that means that if you have one and it's now valid, you will be able to indeed get on a plane and come to the United States. The question is, though, how long will that process take? Remember earlier today, our Laura Jarrett reported that the number of people who had their visas revoked was about 100,000 individuals. So we don't know how long that process will take, but based on the language that CBP gave to the airlines, it sounds as if this is something that's happening as we speak, Don.
Okay, and Jim, I know you have to go and get off the lawn because there are rules and restrictions, but I just want to ask you, so this is the first bit of information, the first statement you got, and the first guidance, so we don't know when they will file an emergency stay for this, but they intend to.
That's right. I mean, I think that's a pretty clear statement there from the White House press secretary that that this president is not going to take this lying down, and that this is going to happen as quickly as humanly possible. We were hearing from officials over here at the White House that they were, working with attorneys, as we speak tonight to deal with all of this. And so this happened very suddenly. But the President of the United States is finding out there are three co-equal branches of government, and in this case, the judiciary branch, the judicial branch of government does have a say in all of this. And, as you heard the governor there a few moments ago say, the Democrats, they don't control the White House, they don't control Capitol Hill, so they're pinning their hopes on the judicial branch of government at this point to stop this president and this executive order. The question, though, is, Don, and I think this is going to be very difficult in terms of people who want to see this temporary or this executive order struck down, is that, from what we understand, the executive branch of government, the president, the White House, has pretty broad latitude when it comes to controlling the nation's borders. And so, it'll be interesting to see how far this gets up the chain all the way up to the Supreme Court and exactly what is ruled in the long run, because for a while, the courts have given the executive branch of government a pretty wide latitude when it comes to this issue, Don.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Michael and Alan, I want you to stick around. Renee and Jim, we'll be getting back to you, I'm sure, throughout the coming hours here on CNN. So stay with me, everybody. When we come right back, much more in our breaking news tonight. A federal judge temporarily halts President Trump's immigration order. What will happen next?
The world's most exciting technology doesn't go on your wrist. Audi A4 with class-leading horsepower.
Severe Crohn's disease. I didn't think there was anything else to talk about, but then I realized there was. So I finally broke the silence with my doctor about what I was experiencing. He said Humira is for people like me who've tried other medications but still experience the symptoms of moderate to severe Crohn's disease. In clinical studies, the majority of patients on Humira saw significant symptom relief, and many achieved remission.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
If you're still just managing your symptoms, talk with your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, remission is possible.
Hello, welcome to McDonald's. They own the business.
From grill to counter in 30 seconds.
He had the vision. I call him the Golden Arches. Critics are calling The Founder the best movie of the new year.
This is not your company, Ray.
You sure about that? The Founder, with PG-13. All right. All right,
flows downstream, both ways. All right, says I dare, and sometimes I do. All right is our most precious resource, and you can only find it in Jamaica, the home of All Right. For deals on your trip to Jamaica, book with Delta Vacations.
My business is built with passion, but I keep it growing by making every dollar count. That's why I have the Spark Cash Card from Capital One. With it, I earn unlimited 2% cash back on all of my purchasing.